Hi everybody, I'm making this video today as a matter of urgency on behalf of Carol Woods. I'm just going to play you first few minutes of Kellie Cottam's interview, and I'll take this opportunity to give my thanks to both these brave ladies, very courageous, and both have spoken out on behalf of Britain's children's rights. So here's just the first few minutes.
Hi, Kellie Cottam, Forced Adoption Exposed, down here with David Jenkins, who's with S.C.O.T. Stolen Children of the UK. Now, coming past us, we have... Do you want your real name mentioned?
Oh yes, of course, yes.
This is...
Carol Woods.
And who are you?
And I am a whistleblower from Lancashire County Council, who blew the whistle in 2001 over altering clients' files so that they could remove children from the families. Asked to commit various illegal activities which I refused to do, and I was eventually forced out of my job for blowing the whistle on all these activities. The police were heavily involved. The police heavily protected corrupt social workers who actually, as a social work manager, was found not to have any qualifications and to be working with a false CV. But I got punished, she didn't. And then things went from bad to worse, and bad to worse. I find out more and more and more, and here I am, 2014, 30 years later, all because I tried to do my best for my clients.
What job was it that you used to do?
I did child protection. I was level 3 social worker, experienced, and I carried a massive caseload.
Okay. So Carol's explained there what she did, and she's been hounded out of her job and by a head of social services who she states very clearly actually had no qualifications. Okay, so what were the other things that Carol was exposing? Well, if you go to Carol's blog, and I'll leave you the links to this video and also to Carol's blog. She says, on the 15th of December 2000, when I was employed as a social worker for Lancashire County Council, I attended a meeting of staff, clients, their families, etc. Subject: home closures on a site known as Field Community School near Blackpool, Lancashire. Hilton Dawson, then MP for Lancaster, Field and Weir attended, as did the LCC consultant Ed Nixon. The staff union involved Unison declined to send a rep. The meeting was well attended, but astonishingly I was the only field social worker in attendance. Some in LCC planned to seize 134 acres of land, evict families from their homes on that site, telling them that they had no tenants' rights, close a working farm, a full-time school, dismiss 46 staff members illegally, and close 4 homes for disturbed adolescent boys. I said in that meeting, "You can't do that," and I was taken to one side and told, "You're right, keep quiet or else." That was later sent to me via senior managers in a letter. Hilton Dawson, as my MP, ignored my pleas for help. I followed all the proper procedures and policies for complaining within LCC. I had 4 clients on that site who had nowhere else to live if it closed, as it was doing, ad hoc and illegally. Then, boys were all in care to local authority, as were all other boys on that site, approximately 100. LCC had no foster carers or field support workers, and on 21st of April 2001, I wrote to the Social Services Committee warning that something would happen if the boys were evicted into the community unmonitored. LCC whistleblowing contact Clive Giddings had told me I would be disciplined and sacked for gross misconduct if I continued to complain about the field disclosure. My protected disclosure was not protected. I finally surrendered my post at the end of August 2001 after being bullied, etc. for 8 months by management intent on forcing me out on instruction from HQ Preston. Tony Bradshaw, Pat Allen and Gillian Armstrong were the worst offenders, then acting on the instruction from David Fairclough, then Head of Human Resources for LCC. On 30th of June 2001, my prediction as to a serious event happened. 2 of the boys from field discharged into the community where no one knew they were had recruited a teenage gang and murdered a pensioner. So, somebody actually died as a result. I had taken my complaint to the LGO York office and was assigned an investigator, Roger Barn. We got on well and sometimes just chatted on the phone. LCC had told him that they would not submit documents if he was to send them to me. R. Barn said the Secretary of State would ensure their compliance. I eventually got the documents. I was to analyse the evidence in the documents and compile a report, which I did. By then, I discovered that Ed Nixon had lied to all staff, clients and their families in the consultation. He had said in a letter to all, "I am Director of Atlantic Children's Trust. I am independent and impartial." E. Nixon was a friend of Senior Manager Sue Mitchell and Tony Morrissey, both childcare, and was unemployed, which is why they recruited him. Also, I checked with Company's House. His company did not exist. He had bought the name from the exchange and mark, false CV at least, criminal offence. D. Fairclough, as head of human resources, had compiled the letter with Bob Gower, another senior childcare manager, in HQ for Ed Nixon to send out. They knew what they were doing. Naturally, I have all that in writing, as I have every last document referred to in this. So, as I say, I'll leave you the link and you can read through Carol's blogs. And this is a matter of urgency now because Carol suddenly went missing. Nobody knew what had happened to her or where she was. And now, yesterday, we found out where she was. She's here. She's been sectioned and placed into a mental health unit. Okay. So, what Carol is exposing, we all need to wake up to. Just because she's not on the BBC, okay, does not mean that what she's saying is not of national importance, and it's not of importance to every person in Britain. Because what Carol has actually reported here, okay, is internal tyranny. It's internal tyranny. Because it's a group of people abusing their powers in local authorities to steal land for their own profits, to their own profit. And also put a community at risk. 100 disturbed adolescent boys were just evicted into the local community, and next minute a pensioner's died as a direct result, has been murdered. Now, people could blame the adolescent boy, which obviously it's them that have done this. But at the end of the day, why are there so many disturbed adolescent children in Britain in the first place? And when you know they're disturbed and you put them in a home to protect the community and themselves, and then suddenly you close that home, and so the community's not actually protected, is it? So it's like really just letting off a round of gunfire into a local community willy-nilly, saying, well, I'm sorry, I wasn't actually aiming at you, I'm sorry the bullet hit you or has killed your child or your grandmother. I wasn't actually aiming for that person, I just decided to shoot a gun off in public. It is really so serious, because what's happened here, it's not just happening in Lancashire, it's happening all over Britain. And we know from the Hampstead case, again, you know, you've got local authorities all conspiring and colluding to profit in every which way possible, from stealing children and trafficking children, either legitimately through the family courts or illegitimately through their connections to children's charities abroad, and also to social workers in Britain. Because the Hampstead case doesn't just involve trafficked babies from abroad, it involves babies being trafficked from within British social services as well. Now these are very, very serious crimes, and we've got the whole establishment covering them up and persecuting the people that speak out against it. Now we either listen to these people who are speaking out, or we stand by the establishment. And if you stand by the establishment, everything that Carol's exposed here, that's not just going to be happening on council estates, because once they've gobbled all the council estates up, they're going to start looking at the family homes, the upper middle class family homes. You know, they're not going to stop. And you have to, and people of Britain have to understand that when the bottom is attacked, that's the foundation of our whole society. So when you're attacking working class, what they call working class, the lower class communities, that's the bottom line being taken out. So who's next in line? Who's next in line? And it is absolutely, well, we're being governed by internal tyranny. Okay, that is what is going on. We're being governed by internal tyranny. It's a smash and grab, and they're using the flimsiest reasons and excuses to steal children off families, to steal land and public property from the public. These are our buildings, our council, town halls, and all the schools. They were ours, the public. What have the public been given in return for these buildings being sold? Have we benefited in any way whatsoever, even though our grandparents and great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents built these blooming things, and they paid for them in their lifetimes? So why are they being sold today? We're being robbed. And our country is being taken over by a set of corporate monsters. TTIP. They've actually included the NHS in TTIP, which means if a government comes into power and says the NHS has got to do this, that and that in order to improve care for patients, the TTIP, the corporation can turn round with the support of TTIP and say, I'm sorry, we're going to sue you now, British government, because your recommendations, your new legislation is affecting our profits. Who runs a health service for profits? Who can benefit from it? Only people with money. So it's a way of killing people, isn't it? It's economic terrorism. If you've got no money, sorry, you'll have to go on a waiting list and see if you can get some help off a charitable hospital. That's what it's going to come down to. The NHS is going to be, there'll be charitable hospitals. We do not want it. Okay, because we know these charities don't work. They're all Mr. Bumbles in it for themselves. And the people that they're supposed to be supporting get crumbs, basically, while everybody working for them is receiving massive amounts of money. Now, I've put this up, write to them. That's all you need. You just need to write that into Google, write to them. And this is what comes up. And you just put your postcode in. And you need to write to your MP and say, I'm writing to say I've lost confidence in every British authority and the British government. I believe we are being ruled by tyrants and the country is in the grip of internal tyranny, and I demand an investigation into every British authority. That is what we need to do. Because we can go and stand with our placards and go on our demos until we're blue in the face and nothing is going to happen. Because what changes things in this world is words on paper with signatures next to them. That is what changes things. We have to face the fact of it. I know it seems like a futile thing to do, but I tell you now, every single person in this country is a raindrop. And if we operate together, we are a storm. And it is time to flood every office of power, every authority. You know, when you type your postcode in here, you'll get your councillors' names up, and especially people in Lancashire. I urge you to please write to all your councillors, write to your MP, particularly about Carol Woods and what's happened, you know, why she has been put into a mental hospital, and why somebody who has lied to the British public, a council, and, you know, people with no qualifications whatsoever are running social services. We need to support these people, and this is what's wrong in Britain, is that, you know, too many people are hooked on the BBC, and they follow this line that, oh, well, if it isn't on BBC News, it isn't really happening. Well, actually, it bloody well is. And what isn't on BBC News is what's really happening. And what's on BBC News, most of it is a fairy tale. Well, you couldn't even call it a fairy tale, really, could you? Because it's a bloody horror story. And we have to address this. We cannot allow, you know, this is happening time and time again to people who are speaking out. They're being branded as mentally ill. You know, Anthony Farrell got it when, as in his job as senior intelligence analyst for South Yorkshire Police, he reported that 7/7 and 9/11 were the work of internal tyranny, according to his expert understanding of the facts and evidence. And he got sacked, and they tried to say he at one point they were trying to say he had mental health problems, you know, which was proven that he didn't. And this lady has not got any mental health problems, you know. This isn't mental health problems, is it? These are actual facts. So who's got the mental health problems? The people that are stealing, that are putting dangerous people out into the public, that are breeding and culturing this consciousness. So we have so many damaged children in Britain because we're living in a country that has, we know since Heath, been governed by paedo-sadists. That is what they are. They're paedophile sadists. They're paedo-sadists, sorry. We're not using that word paedophile because phile is love. Paedophile, child lover. We're not using that. It isn't love, it's sadism. So it's paedo-sadist. That's the word, paedo-sadist. That is what they are. Okay. So we need to remove them from power, and as I say, everybody a raindrop, together we are a storm. Flood these institutions. Let them know that you exist and that you have a thought in your head and a feeling in your heart about something. And do mention the words internal tyranny and loss of confidence. We have no confidence in paedo-sadists, not when the police are involved, and we have evidence. We know the police are involved. So all we can do is appeal to every person in authority, you know, those who dare to care. If you can dare to care, speak out. Do not stay quiet while they put people who are standing up and speaking out against a tyranny, while those people are being persecuted, jailed and put into mental institutions, incarcerated. We need to stop this, and we need to stop it now. So please, write to them. Even if you don't vote, at the end of the day, that MP is supposed to be representing you. So you let that MP know who you are and that you do have a thought in your head about something and you are pissed off. If you are, I mean, there's probably people out there who are quite happy with the way things are. They believe in all the rubbish of the BBC. They believe David Attenborough, there's too many people, and all this absolute garbage that they come out with. But I tell you, once they've taken off the poor people, then it'll be the middle classes and so forth, till they get their 80% of the population living on the poverty line or below it. That is what they are aiming for. That is Victorian Britain. So, what's 20% of 70 million people? And you ask yourself, as a British citizen, how likely are you to be in that 20%? If you're not likely to be in that 20%, you're going to be in the 80%, and you're going to be on the poverty line or below it. And as for your NHS care, well, like I say, TTIP. If the politicians bring in any legislation to improve healthcare for the NHS, well, the corporation running the NHS, the private corporation, will just turn around and say, well, I'm sorry, we're going to sue you now because your legislation threatens our profits. How can we have that for healthcare? So, we have to wake up, because, we do not want our children growing up, delivering their children into the kind of Britain that existed before the end of World War II, where every family was losing children to disease and ill health because they couldn't afford a doctor. Okay? And we don't want... it's already happened with the 0-hour contracts. Every employer can just bring people on, lay them off willy-nilly as they feel. Oh, there's no work today, go home. And there's nothing for those people to fall back on. I'm sorry, there's nobody's got any security now. So, this is our last hope. The pen is mightier than the sword. Pick it up and use it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.